All right. For those who just coming in, welcome to Unraveled Sessions Live. I'm gonna be interviewed with Midas Touch. We were supposed to go live at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, but I ran into some stuff at work and I had to delay this a little bit. But we're finally here, so thank you guys for popping in. So, Midas Touch. For those who don't know who you are, tell us who you are. Where you tell us what's going on. Talk to us.
Okay, before I say something about myself, I want you to talk about myself. I want you to tell who I am. Let me see.
Wait, say it again. The what?
Before I tell anything about myself, I want you to tell something about me.
To say something about you? Oh well. Um. Okay, so this guy right here is a very countercultural brother right here from India. You're the kind of person like if you speak your mind, you speak it true. That's why I fell in love with your poetry. You talk about stuff that certain areas of that life of the place you live in and the areas the life that you live is very frowned upon, but you're not afraid to speak truth, and that's why I appreciate you for that. So when you and I were talking about featuring you in this interview, I was definitely excited. So I'm happy that we're doing this now. So yeah, that's what that is. So if you don't know who this guy is, you're about to find out today. So yeah.
Out of everything, you just said one thing right that they will find about me today, but rest everything was a lie. Because more than you, I think I am excited for this one. It's a dream come true, uh, you know, having this interview with you, having myself on this page featured. Uh, and I can't forget how Unraveled Influence has been a great influence for me when it comes to online open mics. So all the credit goes to you. And secondly, yeah, so I come from India. I'm from Pune. And okay, I am not a poet. To everyone who feels I'm a poet, I'm not a poet. I am a storyteller.
Okay.
So that's how I introduce myself.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So, with all that being said, as far as writing and creating and stuff like that, how did this all start for you? Like, what was the inspiration behind like all of this? Like, what made you want to start writing and creating and stuff like that? How did that all start for you?
Um, this began in 2019 when one of my friends, he was a roommate of mine, right? Um, and it was Valentine's week. Um, and it was funny because he kept on asking me what should I buy, what should he buy for his girlfriend, and I was like, hey, I don't know because I've never been into a relationship. But he kept on insisting, and that time I wrote the very first sentence of my poetic journey, and that was, "Hey, let me ask time by borrowing it from time."
Mm.
And then I said that, and after 5 seconds, we were like looking at each other. And then we laughed out so hard because no one expected that. And yeah, that happened. And then for almost like an year, I didn't write anything. Then I slowly started posting things on my personal page, which I don't even remember if it exists or not now. Um, but I used to write there. I did a couple of posts over there, right, in my regional language. And then when I felt that there are a fixed number of views that I'm getting, there are people who are loving it. So I thought of taking that risk and going ahead with my own personal poetry page.
Mm.
So that's how it started. This was in December 2020. And then the rest is history.
Wow. So pretty much, wow, that's awesome. It's funny too because you know what's interesting about this poetry community? Like when I first because I've been writing since junior high school, but as far as this community, I didn't come in until 2018, 2017, 2018. It was maybe 6, 7 months after my father passed away. It's so interesting because like I didn't know this world existed. I didn't know this was a thing. And it was just so interesting because I didn't know this existed until one day. You know, I was just like you, just posting. People would like here and there. You know, nothing crazy. And what ended up happening was this platform called Poets Anonymous tags me in
Hmm.
something. I'm like, what is this? Like Poets Anonymous. That was like one of the first platforms that I remember I came encounter with. And they said, "Oh, at 6 p.m. we're gonna read these people." And they were, and I saw my handle was called Jam Them Down at the time. And that was just my poetry page before it became a platform. And anyway, that's pretty much how it all started. And then I saw the live, and I was like, "Oh snap, that's cool." They read one of my pieces, and it's so interesting because back then it was different than how it is today. It was just two people and that's it. There was no four people, and the live once the live ended, you had to wait. You could watch the live for 24 hours, and then after 24 hours, the live would disappear. There was no saving the live. So I had to record it and screenshot the live. That's how it was back in the day. So any live I have, I had to record it from a different phone or screen capture it and do it that way. And it's so interesting because the more I got involved in the community, then I saw other platforms come in and it just became this thing. And yeah, it's interesting because again, I didn't know this world existed until like 2018, 2019. And then once 2020 came in, I think that's when I got exposed to a lot. And that was during the shutdown. It's so funny because this was, yeah, because I think tomorrow's the day actually when, actually, no, today, what's today, the 19th? Yeah, actually, I think it was today, 3 years ago, 4 years ago that, they announced that they were going to do the shutdown in New York and the East Coast. So it's just interesting to think like, oh snap, like this is literally 4 years ago. Here we are, you know. With that being said, thank you for your words, by the way, about my platform being an influence in your life. I take that with pride and joy. I take that with, you know, with a great responsibility because I think it's important to highlight people's lives like that. Because everybody on Instagram, you know, they do the post, okay, hey, check out this post, and that's it. And I wanted to be different. Hey, let's do the interviews, let's do the open mics and stuff like that. So I'm glad that I was able to meet someone like yourself, and I wanted to ask you about your poetry. So when you write your poetry and you do your stuff, what do you find fascinating about that? As far as when you write, let's say you write a piece and then you look it over, what fascinates you about that? Like what goes through your mind?
Uh, so basically, I have written either something that has happened, right? I've experienced something, or majorly it happens that I have written something, and then after a few minutes, I get to experience it.
Hmm. Okay.
So sometimes it's beautiful, uh, but at times it's scary, right? Because if you know you have not experienced and if you're still writing this, that means something is going to happen that is going to take me back to this time when I wrote a particular poem or when I wrote a particular story. And you know what fascinates really about poetry and storytelling is you can create a whole almost real world out of your imagination. Like, I believe that the characters of the poetry are the luckiest because they don't have a life, they don't have death,
Okay.
they are just immortal, you know. So if you're writing someone or if you're writing about something, then I believe that person or that particular thing becomes immortal.
Mm.
And I believe storytelling and poetry is a great way to do that. there is something which you need to personify, or if there is someone whom you need to make immortal,
Wow.
just write a poem, a story about it. And that's why they say that if you fell in love with an artist, specifically a poet, you can never die.
Mhm. Wow. Okay. So you said earlier that sometimes it's scary. Can you expand more on that? Like, why is that scary though for you sometimes?
Um, it has happened often that I wrote about the aftermaths of heartbreak, right? Um, I wrote about how it feels to get hurt. I wrote about how manipulation feels like, right? And then sometime um, after I wrote that piece, a few months down the line, I started facing those situations,
Mm,
and all of a sudden, my mind got carried back to those poems that I wrote. And then when this started happening repeatedly, I came to know about this pattern that either I'm writing something that has happened or uh, you know, I'm writing something that is going to happen. Um, and I believe that's a bit scary because the next time, if you go to that poem, one thing I can guarantee you, it's never going to feel the same.
mm, wow. Okay.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That makes it scary.
Yeah. No, I understand that. You know, it's interesting because I was reading a poem that I wrote a long time ago back in high school, and one of the lines was so it said something like I wish I was 28. I wish oh my God, I don't remember the exact line, but it's so interesting, right? Because I wrote that I don't know why I said in that poem I wish I was 28, like 28 years old. And I was looking back, I said, hold up. A lot of things happened when I was 28 years old in 2013. It's scary. So it's interesting you said that because that's the year I gave my life to the Lord on top of that. So I'm like, wait a second. But I wrote this back in high school. I'm looking back now when I'm 38, 39 years old. I'm like, wait, why did I want to be 28 when I was only 18, 19 years old? Like, why would I write that? And it is scary because sometimes it makes you like, so I wanted to ask, was it one of those situations like you felt like sometimes when you write stuff, you feel like you're putting it out there? So even though it didn't happen, but it's like, oh, I'm putting it out there that it might happen to me. And then when it does happen, it's like, oh, snap, did I predict it? Did I give myself a premonition to my future type of thing? Like, does it look like that to you sometimes when you say that?
Earlier, when I came to know about this pattern that was happening, right? Um, I usually kind of felt that, but now um, it's so into the bloodline. It's so into the blood that
Mm, okay.
e- even when you're writing, you feel it happening.
Yeah. Mm, yeah.
And I think that's how we poets or we storytellers wish to evolve.
Mm,
Because if we can feel it while writing, the readers are definitely going to feel it when they read it.
mm,
And that's what gives us the confidence, okay, let's go ahead and post this.
right.
Because people
Right.
will relate to it because we as readers relate to it. And so yeah, it sometimes though happens still that um, I get pulled back to those older poems. Uh, but the reverse, that if I've written something, it might happen. Um, even if that thought comes to mind, I remind myself of the Murphy's laws.
Mm,
That
okay.
if something is going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Wow.
So that doesn't affect me anymore. In fact, it amuses me, and I'm like, okay, let's wait. Let's wait for the time that when I'm going to be thrown back to this piece. I'm going to see how it feels.
Mm, mm, wow. Okay. Okay. Wow. Nah, you really just took me over the whole world. And you got me left me speechless. You see what I'm saying, guys? Like, you see, this is what I'm talking about with Midas, right? This is what I'm talking about. Like, he says things in ways that I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is what I'm saying. You see why I enjoy his company? Because like, he'll take you, he'll take you to his mind. This is what it is. Like, yo, oh my God.
You know,
So
we
I
poets
was
are
gonna
weird.
ask, yeah. Hey, listen, we are poets, we're writers, and we're weird, right? Oh my God, no, but yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So I wanted to ask if you have a piece you want to read so we can give the people an example of how your poetry looks like.
Okay. Now that's a difficult choice, but let me see. Uh, uh, okay. I'll read something that is a bit slow, but um, it kind of leaves that impact. Okay, so this is one of my favorite pieces, and it's titled as Days After Days, Nights After Nights. And it's about this person who has lost someone. And they say that time heals everything, but the question is, does it really do?
Mm.
Or is it just that you start to live in peace with the pain?
Wow.
So it's all about that. Um, it's a bit heavy piece, but I believe that uh, writing pain makes you feel lighter. So,
Yeah.
okay, so here is how it goes. Day 227, another sunny day, yet I'm blinded by almost everything. False hopes, fake promises, illogical fairy tales, and of course, the legendary myth, forever. I no more watch them. The dried up tears, the ones that came to the brim but refrained from rolling down. The marble has turned grey. Sunlight no more greets the house. All that once had life now stands absolutely lifeless. It feels as if everything is mimicking me, showing me just like how alive I'm from outside, but a zombie inside. Rusted locks keeps your memories safe. The sounds of creaking door haunting me otherwise, reminding me of your absence. The sofas are now covered with dust. The spideys are the only ones I talk to. They found comfort on these old walls. Or maybe it's that I found comfort in them. Just give me a second. Okay, I'm audible? Yeah, okay. The sofas are now covered with dust. The spideys are the only ones whom I talk to. They found comfort on these old walls. Or is it just that I found comfort in them? Those webs don't scare me now. The webs of entanglement, grief, guilt, that freedom in which I feel caged, trapped, just like the one trapped in his web. Everything is same since you left. Days after days, nights after nights. It's just me, the deafening silence, the false hopes, the fake promises, illogical fairy tales, and of course, the legendary myth, forever. He took you away without even asking me. So, so much I wanted to learn from you. So much I wanted to read you. You were like an open book, but yet I couldn't turn pages as much as I wanted to. Couldn't have you stayed a little longer, Dad? I wish you were here. I so badly feel the need to hug you. Alas, I'm helpless except to live with it, loving you across time zones. With a heavy heart, I go back to bed, lifeless. I sleep with my eyes wide awake, trying to stare at the reality only to get hypnotized and sleep in the arms of silence forever, but in vain. I think the pain is not over yet. I think peace is yet to come. I think there's a lot that needs to be learned from this pain. I think I still need acceptance. I think I'm still in denial. I think I still miss you. I think, I think. And then my eyes close unknowingly, just to open them the other day. Day 228, another sunny day, yet I'm blinded by almost everything. False hopes, illogical fairy tales, and the legendary myth forever.
Wow. You see what I'm saying, guys? You see what I'm saying? Whether you're watching the replay or whatever, you see what I'm saying. This is what I'm talking about. Wow.
Thank you.
Oh man. So many directions you can take that piece. The part about hugging the person and how you missed them and how you felt like they were like a book with the pages. That's kind of how I felt about my dad. I felt like it's like, you know how you have a book, but then there's certain things that were not added to the book, but you find these pages later. That's how I feel about my father. Like I'm just the things I'm learning about him now are missing pages. Like I have his poetry, I have his newspaper articles and stuff like that. And I look back like, damn, I'm just learning about this now. Why wasn't this in the book of life? You know, the book of his life. Like I found them later, kind of thing. Um, yeah, you know what? I feel you on that. Just there's a lot of things that really caught my eye, especially with just having that chance to connect with that person on a level like that. I wish I can still, you know, I wish I can still talk to you and be with you and just spend time with you. And it's so crazy, right? Because me and my cousin, we used to talk about like just life and death, and we would say, isn't it crazy how we meet a person, but the minute they die, it's like they vanish, like
Mm,
you don't see them ever again. And somebody told me one time that even though physically my dad's not around anymore, but he said that as long as you keep the memories and you remember them, you keep them alive, then he's not really gone. That's what he told me. And when I heard
and
that, I said, you know what, you're right. But
and all
it's
of a sudden we start to feel that, hey, there is so much more that you wanted to talk to that person.
mm, mm, wow. But pain is a very interesting word, is a very interesting feeling. Because I feel like pain takes you to places we don't really understand sometimes, but like when we write
It
about it, we
does.
look back, like, did I really write that? Like, oh my God. And it's crazy, right? Because I could try to write a happy poem, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's bigger than us. Life
Yes.
is definitely us. When we write, sometimes it's bigger than us. But it's like you said earlier, sometimes when we write things down, um, we just don't know who needs to hear it. So you said something very interesting earlier that you said that time heals all wounds, but does it really? And I have to agree with you on that because does it really heal all your wounds? Does it really? Because here's the thing I told my friend, because I just reconnected with an old friend of mine. and she said how, her mom died 6 months ago, and I told her, well, that pain's not gonna go away. Maybe like years, the pain doesn't hurt as much, doesn't bother you as
Yes,
much, and you don't feel
precisely.
it as much. But the pain itself, it's always gonna be there no matter what, because you're gonna have days where you're gonna wish this person was still around. My father's been dead for 6 years now, and my son's been around for 5. He died. He was born. My son was born a year after my dad passed away. So it's just crazy. Like, one life left, but then another one came to life. That's the way I look at it. But there are things that I feel like there's very similar to me and my son and to me and my father, that I feel like, damn, if he was like, what questions can I ask him and how would he explain it to me and stuff like that. And it's being a parent is hard, and that's what they don't tell you, whether you're in church, whether you're in school. Like, they don't tell
It
you how hard
is.
parenting is. So I wanted to ask you, like, can you break that down for me, like that piece itself? I know you talked about the meaning of the piece, but was there a particular situation that happened that made you write that piece, or was it something you wrote and then the situation happened? Like, can you, like, what does that look like for you?
Um, to be honest, I saw a lot of people being lost in COVID,
Mm,
including my own ones. Um, so I felt that no matter how much time passes away, right? Uh, for some people, some things always stay the same. You know, um, one incident or one event can turn a happy, jolly person into a mass of flesh.
mm,
So the thing is, while that person is alive, how much is it that you are valuing the person, right? And okay, if even if uh, and even if he and even if you feel for that person, or even if you value that person, right? If you and when that person goes, it is a long time, it's a long lasting effect that stays on you, right? And what happens is, with time, that baggage, the weight of that baggage, right, it stays the same, but other things start to weigh outweigh it, right? There are other things that weigh out more than that particular thing, so you don't feel it. But the thing is, it's still there. It's like a bubble, right? It's trapped inside, and you hit one stone from your past, and it comes out in form of ripples. It just needs that one hit. So I think pain is inevitable, um, and but not feeling that pain again is something that is not possible. If there is pain, you're going to feel it again and again, and maybe after some time, but it's just that the intensity with which it hurts you is going to drop. And that's going to only happen if you're going to learn something out of it.
mm.
Else it will stay at the same effect. It's like every
Wow.
time you're putting your hand into a snake hole, it bites you, but next time you again put your hand inside a snake hole. So you can't really blame that snake. It's your foolishness that, in spite of the thing giving you pain, you're not learning a lesson from it. So I believe pain stays with you until you actually learn something from it. And the
Mm,
moment your life lessons, or whatever you wish to learn from it, or whatever God wants you to realize from it happens, it is going to stay with you. So if you
wow.
feel that you're trapped in pain, just think about it, that is there really something that I'm not catching hold of, or is there something that universe wants to tell me, but maybe I am unaware of it, or maybe it's front of my eyes, but I'm not accepting it. So
Mm,
that's why I believe that, uh, and that was the main reason of writing this. That a person passing away is just one incident, but the whole idea of grief and entanglement, right? It stays the same.
mm,
So
mm.
that was the idea behind the piece.
Wow. No, wow. This is what I'm saying. If you're watching the replay or not, this is what I'm talking about, man. When you write, it's so, oh my God. And it's like I said, you don't see a lot of people from India like yourself that writes like that. Because again, I know from my understanding, I know the culture is a little bit different and stuff like that. And the fact that you are willing to be vulnerable like that, that is like to get your mind to get to that place to write about it like that the way you do, that piece definitely yeah, and everything you just said is so true because I think one aspect of pain sometimes, if we're not careful, it takes us to a place of denial because we don't want to accept that this thing happened, right? Because my mother, for years, even after my dad passed away, she denied that she even had a problem because she was depressed and she didn't eat as much. She got very skinny. And she would deny that she had a problem. She would even deny that, oh, I'm fine. And my sister would try to take her to therapy and stuff like that. And she's like, okay, you could book it, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna go to it, kind of thing, and me coming from a Puerto Rican background, especially from that time, like when my mom's time, they didn't really talk about that kind of stuff like how you and me talk about, and everything was done in private. Same thing with my father, whenever he had pain, he always kind of masked it with like big, strong, macho, that's how I grew up in, and it's like big boys don't cry kind of thing. And it's hard because when you grow up around that and you try to be different from that, and sometimes part of that lingers around you because it reminds you of, oh, well, you're a man, you can't act like that. I believe in being vulnerable. Because I know my brother, he's older than me. He's not type to be vulnerable like that. If he is, he usually does it in private. I'm more like, I don't mind talking about it if I know it benefits somebody else to feel better. Like, for example, I know I'm not the only person going through something. So I feel like if I can benefit somebody somehow, some way to talk about something, and then that person, for whatever reason, relates to it, it makes them feel like, you know what, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. There's
Hmm.
another person from
Right.
the other side of the world that understands. Maybe I'll never meet the guy in person, but he understands. She understands. And I think that's important. And I think if a lot of us just took a step back, if a lot of us just really just think about what it is in life, I think maybe reflectiveness is so important. I think maybe we can get to a place like, maybe we don't have to be putting on walls all the time. I think that's the problem. We put so much walls, and culture doesn't really allow us to be vulnerable. So I think that's where you and I come in, where we're okay to break the barrier, right? Like they try to put the wall, was it the wall of China? They destroy that. They try to put all these things, and it's like it doesn't always work. Sometimes just being out in the open is important, and I think that's, again, I think so much
Uh,
respect to you for that, coming
I
from where you you know.
I remember writing this micro. I might post it now. Thanks for reminding me. Um, but there was this micro that I wrote that the first step towards acceptance is acceptance of denial.
Mm, mm, mm. So I want to ask you something. In your opinion, though, like do you find yourself sometimes struggling with acceptance when it comes to things that happen? Like, I know for me, there's a lot of areas of my life I feel like I struggle with the most, but do you find yourself in those situations too, especially when a situation like that takes place?
Um, a lot of times, uh, um, we don't feel like accepting things. Um, You feel like being in that state of denial because, um, and even in that state of denial, if it's painful, right, you feel that pain somewhat more peaceful
Mm.
rather than you accepting the fact that something has happened. You feel that, okay, this pain, whatever I'm feeling, is anyways going to heal with time. So why don't I stay in the same state, right? So
Mm.
this bubble of denial, right? It doesn't let you escape through and doesn't let you go into the state of acceptance. But yeah, there have been times where I didn't have the power to accept things. Uh, but then it happens that when you're in such a state, universe sends a person to you
Mm.
who shifts that paradigm all of a sudden, and you feel that thrift inside you. You feel that change of thoughts inside you. You feel uh, you just kind of feel that positivity in you all of a sudden, and that's why I wrote this, right? That the first step of acceptance is the acceptance of denial.
Mm.
So before you move on, before you start accepting, you first need to accept that you are in denial.
Wow.
Because until that, you won't be able to move on. The first step is accept that you are in a stage of denial and you accept that being in this state is okay, and only through denial you can move into acceptance.
Mm. Mm.
It's like a dawn breaks only after a night, right? So until you don't surpass that night, you just need to hold on to it, right? Um, Now, when I say hold on, I don't mean to say stop. I just say that go with the flow.
Mm.
Going with the flow is equivalent to holding on to that pain, right? You don't grip it tight, but you don't let that loose because it's the same pain that's going to take you out of it.
Mm.
Pain takes you out of that own pain. You just need to hold on to it, but not tightly. So I believe the
Mm.
very first steps of acceptance is that you need to accept that, hey, I am in a stage of denial, and now that I know, I'm going to do something for it.
So it's like an
I'm going to make that
acknowledgement.
denial turn into acceptance.
So it's like pretty much you're acknowledging, pretty much is what you're trying to say. Like what you're saying basically, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna acknowledge the
Acknowledge.
fact that I am in
Yes.
denial. I'm gonna
Yes.
accept the fact that you know what? I need to acknowledge this because I think what happens is when we acknowledge something, then it's like, wait, there's a revelation behind that in a sense where like, wait a second, okay, wait, I didn't know this. But sometimes, you know what sucks about that though? Sometimes like it never happens on our own when we're reflecting. It's more like somebody points it out to you kind of thing. And sometimes it's always the behavior aspect of it. Sometimes we behave in a way that makes people think, wait, I think he's not, I don't think he really understands. And I think that's when the accountability comes in, and that's when true friendship comes in. Like the real people who are around you are the ones that will be there for you. And I was gonna say there, and I think part of the denial process is the fact that we go to denial because it's easy, right?
It's
Because
comfortable.
when it's easy, yeah, it's easy to go this way, but it's harder to go the opposite direction because sometimes going the opposite of what we know makes us uncomfortable. And when we're uncomfortable, it's not a good journey. But it's like you said, once we accept and we acknowledge, okay, I got to go to this uncomfortable space. That's when little by little, what however life uses it, whether they use people or things or situations or whatever, but it brings us to that place that okay, I need to acknowledge the fact that I'm in denial because if I'm seeing things that's trying to tell me that and I don't accept it, then it's like, all right, what are we doing here? Then you're gonna be in a downward spiral when we don't need. And it's hard. It's easier said than done, obviously. But it's like you said, even what you were saying before. I think if we just sit down, and I think that's what it is. Being still is difficult, especially for us men. We're prideful. We don't want to express vulnerability, but sometimes we need to be in that place because then, if you want peace of
And I think,
mind, then
and
right, like for the
yeah,
journey to peace of mind, we have to acknowledge.
and I think it's difficult, not just for men, but for everyone, right? Because since childhood, you're being taught that even if you're feeling pain, you're not supposed to express it.
Mm,
So until we don't change that, because you see, it's like from years and years in your life, you have that thing inside you. It's a part of your character. You just can't throw it away like that. So that um, that feeling of being in that comfortable space, it's something that we teach our children right from the childhood. So until that doesn't change, things might not change. And that's why um, I really feel, that people who have faced pain in the early stages of life are at a much higher level of maturity than we are today. Because right from the beginning, before even getting inside that bubble of comfort, they never got a chance to stay in it for a long time. So
mm,
I think that the people, if you if you're suffering, if you're going through pain, let's consider ourselves to be lucky because it only makes us stronger and nothing else. So if you're going through pain, if there's something wrong going on in your life, then it's an indication that okay, things are normal. Because
mm,
a straight line on a monitor just means death.
mm.
When you
Wow.
go to these hospitals, right, and you see the straight line,
Yeah.
it just means one thing, death.
There's
You
no
don't
life.
want your life to be that. You don't want your life to be that straight line.
Mm,
So, and when you go steep down, that feeling, that joy of coming step up is unmatchable. Like you say, hey, I made it out of it. I made through it.
mm,
So,
mm,
uh, I believe that pain actually is a very integral part of it, and at least once a person has to go through it. So if you're going through it in an early stage, consider this as an opportunity um, that you're going to be way more mature than the people around you because it's going to teach you a lot. Now, with that, I'm not saying that pain is good. Obviously, we wish that no one goes through that pain or any sort of pain. But if you're going through one, I would just say hold on to it,
mm,
but don't grip onto it. There's a difference between holding it and gripping it, right? So we should hold on, but we should not grip it because gripping always it tears you, it rips you out. So
mm,
that's my take on
mm.
pain specifically.
No, that's wow. Yo, again, this is what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying, man? Wow. That wow. No, thank you for that. Cause again, like we're seeing you here and it's just so raw and so true, and I think it crazy to think like pain is a very interesting thing, right? Because it could break you, but it could also teach you. And it's like, damn, you know? Um, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And yeah, um, So, we are almost towards the end. And do you have one more piece you want to read?
Yes.
Come on, read
Um,
one more piece. My friend.
okay. It's a very short piece, um, but I hope it leaves that impact. Um, just give me a second. Mm, okay. Uh, so because we are talking about poetry, right? And in a short while, it's the World Storytelling Day, right? So first of all, happy Storytelling Day to all the storytellers out there, and a happy Poetry Day in advance, which is day after tomorrow, right? So, um, with that, right, how about if I perform a six-word story on poetry?
Hey, whatever you want, my friend.
So, the title is Six-Word Story, and there is a six-word story at the end. But before that, there's a short story that goes.
Okay.
And here is how it goes. And once again, my pen fails. It's all there, right there in my head, on the tip of my tongue. Fringe thoughts and emotions, just like that rock that hangs limply at the edge of the cliff. The words came all the way down to the end of the nib. They try to break the cage, set themselves free, but something stops it. Some force unknown, the existence of which is a question in itself. Often this happens. We fail to write about people who love us. We fail to write about people whom we hate. We fail to write about our feelings. We fail to write about our emotions. We just fail to write. After all, this isn't any other poem. It's an ode to someone who was always by my side, an ode to someone who kept waiting ages until I met him. This is my ode to poetry. And as I am about to give up on my words, I pen down another six-word story. Perplexing, overwhelmed emotions, triggers, rhapsodic yearnings. Poetry. Poetry. And that's the piece.
Mm, wow. Yeah. Like oh my God, bro. Again, this is what I'm talking about, man. When you write, man, you have this way of writing, man. And I guess my advice to you is don't ever stop, man. Don't ever stop, because in life, depends on where you at. Sometimes people might put their 2 cents where they don't belong, but just keep staying true to yourself, my friend. Yeah, that was wow, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you're just yeah.
Okay. Uh, just because you started this before this live with a flyer, right? Uh, so how about me performing that poetry?
Oh, the I am a poet. Yeah, you got. Let's do it. Let's do it, bro.
Okay. Uh, so I wrote this for a question, and the question was, what is the most weirdest habit that you have, right? And what's the most weirdest thing about you? And that's what I wrote this. Um, and it says, you ask me what makes me weird. Well, it's simple. I'm a poet, and poets are weird. I wasn't always a poet. I wasn't always weird. Or maybe I was always. Maybe I just discovered myself. Oh, wait. What did I just discover? Did I discover that I'm a poet, or did I discover that I'm a weird? You see, I'm a poet, and poets are weird. We don't do things the normal way. We have a standard defined procedure for it. We pick up the beauty around us, butcher it into pieces, wrap it in a thick cocoon of metaphors, well decorated with imagery and meters, rhyming similes, alliterations, paradox, onomatopoeia, and whatnot. Too much poetry, right? A simple question and the answer, all twisted and turned. You see, I'm a poet, and poets are weird. So for once, here I am, peeling out a layer of insecurity. What if I get judged? Oh, oh, do you think I really care? I wish I did. But sorry, I don't care what the world thinks about me. You see, I'm a poet, and poets are weird. They say our mind has a switch. One can always toggle between one emotional, the other practical. But us poets, our switch is faulty, misconfigured, unable to toggle, not even sure if there is a switch to operate, not even sure if we have a practical side. Well, we fail, even here. You see, I'm a poet, and poets are weird. I remember our last date together on the beach. You asked me one simple question. Are you loving the sunsets? I could have just said yes. But what did I say? Hey, the skies paint themselves in the hues of crimson, where the land meets the horizon, meets the sky, meets the sea. A romance played forever with sweet sounds of waves. I wonder why did you leave me after that? I still remember. You took me to a friend's funeral, and I could have just said that, hey, I'm sorry, I feel your pain. Things will get better with time. But I guess I said him the reality that, hey, I can't feel your pain, obviously, because it's your pain. But with time, things now I know why I got slapped in the face hard. You see, I am a poet, poets are weird.
Wow. Wow, brother. Thank you so much for that. Wow. Uh, that piece every time, man. Thank you for reading that piece. So,
Thank you
we
so
are,
much.
yeah. So, brother, thank you so much for being on here. We are towards the end. I always ask everybody this, so I'm gonna ask you this. When people hear your name, whether it's impact or legacy or whatever it is, when they hear your name, what do you want people to remember you by?
The Midas touch.
Mm, that's it?
Like, uh, I believe each and every one of us has that one quality which is as powerful as that Midas touch,
Mm,
right? Um, if we stay in limits, it always comes to help. But if we get into that ego mode, same thing destroys us, right? So I believe that every one of us, each and every poet, each and every person out there who is not a poet, has that Midas touch. It's just that you need to find it. And once you do, you make sure that the only thing that you're doing is rosating people's life. So I want Midas touch to be a part of people's life, their everyday actions, that everything they do, right? And I want them to realize that each and every single one of you doesn't matter if he's a writer or not a writer. Each and every one of you is a storyteller because each and every one of you has lived your life, and your life story is different than someone else. So you are a storyteller, and just keep that storyteller alive inside you because you never know that when will your story become an inspiration for someone else. When you are just feeling like I'm a loser, there's someone out there who feels you as an inspiration. And I want each and every person out there to be that Midas touch for that person out there. So rather than just a name, I really wish I am able to make this name a brand that people live each day.
mm.
That's the only goal for me into writing now.
Amen. Amen to that. What I hope for Unraveled Influence as well, and to to impact people like yourself and all of us. So thank you for that. I 100% agree with
Thank you
you.
so much.
So brother, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank thank you for doing this interview with me. Despite the craziness, but we finally did. Thank you for everybody that just joined in, whether you're here now or you're doing watching the replay. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Love you
before I
guys.
go,
Yes.
before I go, there's a short one-liner that I would drop. Once while strolling, I found a word. Today, I am a poet.
Oh my God, brother, thank
That's
you
how
so
we become
much.
poets.
Amen. You know, we're poets and we are weird. Amen. Um, Thank you
And we
so
are shameless.
much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, my friend. And like I said, whether you're watching it now or watching the replay, I thank you for your honesty, for your rawness. And again, we don't see a lot of this in your culture, and the fact that, you you just want to be yourself no matter what. I so much respect for you for that. So
Thank
thank
you
you, everybody who
so
came
much.
in.
Don't
Thank
forget
you. And
to follow me back.
yes, follow
If
him.
you guys love my work, do follow me back at the
Yes,
underscore
it's
dot
the
underscore Midas
underscore
touch.
dot underscore Midas underscore dot underscore touch, the Midas touch. That is his handle.
Yes.
Talk to you soon, guys. And yeah, have a good day. Brother, thank you so much, man.